The hardest person to be honest with is often yourself. But the moment you admit your mistake, something quietly begins to heal. Admitting our mistakes is one of the hardest things a human being can do, not because the truth is unclear, but because facing it requires courage. Deep inside, we often already know when we are wrong. Yet, acknowledging it feels like standing exposed, vulnerable, unprotected, and afraid of judgment. From a psychological perspective, this reaction is natural. The human mind is designed to protect itself. When we make a mistake, our ego activates defense mechanisms: denial, rationalization, projection. We tell ourselves that the situation forced us, that others were worse, or that we had no choice. Not because we are dishonest by nature, but because shame feels threatening to our sense of identity. Psychologists explain that shame creates internal conflict. It attacks how we see ourselves as good, capable, or worthy. So instead of facing the mistake, we push it away. But what we suppress does not disappear. It stays quietly in the subconscious, manifesting as anxiety, irritability, guilt, or emotional exhaustion. Healing begins when we stop running. Self-awareness is the first step towards psychological well-being. When we dare to admit our mistakes, we are not tearing ourselves down, we are grounding ourselves in reality. Acceptance does not mean justifying wrongdoing. It means acknowledging what happened without distortion, without excuses, and without cruelty toward oneself. This is a powerful shift, from resisting reality to embracing responsibility, from protecting the ego to nurturing the soul. Research in psychology shows that individuals who can acknowledge their mistakes experience healthier emotional regulation. They tend to have lower levels of chronic stress, stronger relationships, and greater resilience. Why? Because honesty, especially self-honesty, reduces inner tension. There is no longer a battle between what happened and what we pretend happened. Regret plays an important role here. Often misunderstood as something negative, regret is actually a sign of a functioning moral compass. It tells us that our values are alive. But regret becomes harmful when it turns into self-punishment, when we replay the past endlessly without learning or growth. Healthy regret is reflective, not destructive. It asks, what can I learn from this? Not, why am I such a failure? This distinction matters. Because when regret is met with self-compassion, it becomes transformative. It opens the door to forgiveness, especially forgiveness toward oneself. And self-forgiveness is essential for inner peace. Making peace with oneself does not mean forgetting mistakes. It means integrating them into our life story with wisdom. Accepting that imperfection is part of being human. That growth often comes through failure, not despite it. And this is where psychology quietly meets spirituality. In Islam, this inner journey has a name: istighfar. Often translated simply as seeking forgiveness, istighfar is far deeper than spoken words. It is an internal act of awareness, remorse, and return. Istighfar begins with recognition, recognizing one's mistakes without denial, without blaming others, without hiding behind pride. Then comes regret, not despair, but conscious remorse. A feeling that says, I acknowledge that I have fallen short. And finally, intention, the sincere commitment to improve and not repeat the same path. In this sense, istighfar aligns closely with psychological healing. It teaches accountability without self-destruction, humility without hopelessness, responsibility without despair. When a person says astaghfirullah with awareness, they are not merely asking to be forgiven. They are admitting their humanity. They are choosing growth over ego, clarity over denial, and peace over inner conflict. Islam does not ask humans to be flawless. It asks them to be conscious, to return when they stray, to admit when they fall, and to trust that mercy is greater than their mistakes. So when we dare to acknowledge our errors, accept them as lessons, and make peace with who we are not only healing psychologically, we are practicing istighfar in its truest form. A quiet act of courage, a return to honesty, and a step toward inner peace. In the end, acknowledging our mistakes is not about dwelling on the past. It is about choosing honesty over denial, growth over pride, and peace over inner conflict. When we dare to face our imperfections with humility, we allow ourselves to heal. We stop fighting who we were and begin caring for who we are becoming. This simple act, recognition, remorse, and the intention to improve, creates space for self-forgiveness and inner calm. True peace is not found in pretending we are perfect. It is found in accepting our humanity, learning from our missteps, and returning, again and again, to what feels right. And perhaps, at its core, this is what it truly means to move forward with a lighter heart.